Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports.
All right. Hi, Elena. Thanks for joining me on Popternative here.
Ellen, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well. I'm so excited to be talking to you. How are we feeling? How are you doing?
I'm ecstatic to hear now that people are watching it, and you, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were, to be sharing WIFELIKE with everybody, because we shot this film 17 days in the pouring rain in Vancouver. It was such a team effort. The diligence and care and love of the crew, the creative team, everybody. It's really a quick turnaround being from when we shot it. So it's exciting to now be sharing it with the world, and here we are on the eve of it.
Yeah. I also want to ask you, how did you prepare to be a robot, essentially? Because in WIFELIKE, spoiler alert, it's in the trailer, but you transform into a robot, like what they call a companion. But your maneuvers, like, what was the preparation like for that?
Oh my gosh. Well, luckily, I had a wonderful team around me. James Bird, our director, Stephen Paul, our producer, who not only was involved with the logistics, day-to-day stuff, but also creatively very helpful with input and a massive support in this, because it was a mighty undertaking. I'm used to playing human roles, and I'm playing a machine, but there's more than just mechanics, under the surface. She has quite a journey that she goes on. So a lot of it started with the physicality of the character. I worked very hard at the gym. I love fitness. So that was a really great, intersection. But also finding the mannerisms for the maneuvers, finding the rhythm in the movement, so that the steps, when I step, there's never jagged steps, so that it's all very fluid and seamless, much like you have that steady rhythm of an escalator or an elevator. It's always steady. And then also finding the kind of animal equivalents, like, is there a grace or similar kind of movement to a gazelle or bird, like kind of with the head move, just finding ways.
I noticed that they made your neck appear longer on purpose, I think, with that haircut.
No CGI though. There was nothing.
Okay.
What's so funny is James and Stephen were like, okay, we posture is obviously very important. Never slouching, never scratching or any kind of human tics. Always had to make sure my posture was good. I kind of flexed my neck in the scenes, and they were like, we want it to look like, if I flexed it in certain moments, it looked like wiring, and we were like, let's make it so it looks like the machinery underneath the skin. Yeah. So that was through consciousness of my body. And I'd go and check the monitor afterwards, and if I thought I could flex it better or have my body in a more that leaned into it more, we'd go again, and just like being very careful and attention to detail was everything, with the physical movements, which was very fun to be. And I had never really, having that awareness, it makes you every inch of your body.
Was it, when you were off camera, did you kind of find yourself second nature doing those like little movements or acting? Like, I'm just wondering, because like in all the scenes, you're very mechanical and you're methodical, right? So I'm just wondering if like you're sitting down at the end of the day and you're just like, oh, okay, no, I can sit.
Please. I'm telling you, Helen, the second that the shoes came off the heels, I was just like, okay. and also I'd go back to, I could swallow regular. Like, the thing is, if I ever swallowed, because of my neck, and we'd want it to look like machine-like and the wiring in there, if I ever swallowed, we'd have to go again, because I wouldn't even be aware of it, or I maybe accidentally tuck a block of hair behind my ear. Robots wouldn't do that. They would never have those kind of those human functions. So even the blinking was another big discussion we had. We're like, do we want her to not blink at all? Okay, that could get creepy at some points, and these are expensive AIs here, they're top quality. So we just wanted the blinking to be intentional, and maybe if there's buffering moments where she's processing a lot of data, much like a computer sometimes slows down or overheats if there's a lot coming at it at once, we wanted to find those equivalencies in the portrayal. So I wanted to find, okay, is she processing a lot of data here? Or is she banking this information and saving it for later? Is she creating a file in her head? Is this a new word that I've never heard before? And is that what humor is? Okay, I'm learning what humor is, and then finding ways that can bleed through. And again, it was all through her rhythm and the cadence of the language, how she perceives language. From starting out at the basic level 1 of code and numbers, and then as she develops into more of what could be argued as a psyche or a singularity. But that's always the kind of direction AI wants to go. Whether there's external forces that are taking that down is a different thing. But again, finding rhythm, the blinks, the swallows, the movement, everything.
And what about the speech too? Because your speech changed as well, right? Did you have a coach for that as well? Or was that a part of the training in general?
It was, just in the beginning, I just knew that, okay, you always hear there's a cadence to when you talk to Siri, you're talking to Siri or Alexa.
Yes, yeah.
So we wanted to have a bit of that, but I also wanted it to evolve, because again, AI is so smart. It's always learning. The goal of what many argue, the goal of AI is to reach the singularity, whether or not that's the programming or not, which is why I think it's interesting it's mentioned the babies at one point, that they're making AI babies, because it's like, well, what are you going to do? The babies are going to get smart too, but they stay babies. So what are you creating, little monsters? Like you fall down a really dangerous rabbit hole, but it makes you, I think it's interesting that it makes you think of these things. But in her case, again, language was a big thing. And what was fun too was having James and Stephen throw their ideas out there and watch for this stuff if ever I forgot something or throwing out some ideas of inspiration. And so it was a really nice collaboration overall.
Yeah. And speaking of collaboration too, you have like almost every scene with Jonathan Rhys Meyers, right? I want to know, how was it working with him? You have a lot of intense scenes. What was that like? He
was such a pleasant surprise, because I knew he was a talented actor. He has a lovely sense of humor, which added such levity to the scene. When we had heavy scenes, he was very respectful and always wanted to make sure I was comfortable and supported and felt supported. So he was so conscious of that, and I'm really grateful to him. He was really a dream scene partner to have, especially with tackling that subject matter and those scenes. He taught me a lot. He taught me a lot, and he's got so much experience and stories, and he was very selfless through the whole process. So, and he had a lot, it was very demanding on him as well. A really tight schedule, but again, everybody was looking out for one another, which was, it was a relief to have him there. And he's handsome too. So she's falling in love with this man, and it wasn't hard. He's got beauty. I sometimes get lost in those eyes. I'm like, oh, don't move, but he's super funny too. Like we do a serious scene and he'd crack a joke and make us all laugh. And it's what you need when you're doing all of that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of intensity.
When you have to be conscious of your every movement and the posture and the this and the that, it's nice to have that kind of personality on set.
Well, especially you're thinking it 10 times more than the average person, right? Because of your role.
Yes.
Your, like,
and
maneuvers.
And with the intimate scenes as well, that's a lot to a large undertaking. And he was so respectful and kind and made sure that I felt safe. So I'm really grateful that it was him playing William for sure. So, yeah.
Was there anything that was very challenging? Because you've done so many different genres, right? And I think that's great about you as an actor and a storyteller, is you go comedy, drama, sci-fi. Was there a particularly challenging part about this role? I know besides the physical stuff and getting, used to that, but was there something challenging for you as an actor?
Well, yes, that was a large aspect of it. Yeah. To me, I gravitate towards challenges. Okay. So when it seems like it's going to be difficult and hard, I can't help myself. I want to be part of it, so I knew what I was getting into, but I felt it was so important, Helen, because to me, the overall message of this film is really an important commentary on women's role in society and these universal themes since the beginning of time. I'll take it back to Greek mythology and history here. We first have the story of Pandora, the myth of the first mortal woman to ever be created. And she's kind of the ancient robot. She was made out of clay and earth. The four winds were breathed into her, and then the gods all had their go at giving her different traits. Athena gave her weaving, Apollo taught her to sing, to play instruments, Zeus gave her a crafty tongue and a deceitful mind, Poseidon gave her a pearl necklace so she would never drown, and Aphrodite gave her beauty and femininity and grace and desire. So she had all the perfect traits. Pandora, which means all gifted. But Hera gave her the most wiliest gift of all, which was curiosity. And I think it's so interesting how in the myths they point out that this was the most dangerous thing a woman could have, is curiosity, and how that's punishable, and how that's what made her a wicked first woman and created the and thus brought on the destruction of men, in the sense of all the toil and strife, Pandora's jar. And I just think that I kept thinking of that myth when I read the script, when we were shooting the story, and it's something we had discussions about, because it just goes back to the beginning, and it's like, has much changed women's role of just sit, be pretty, serve the men, and don't have a voice. The philosophers used to say that women were deformed men, that in the womb they were men and they came out deformed, and that's why you have a woman. Giving them an ink and or the ability to write is giving venom to a snake. So these were all like beliefs, staunch beliefs in Grecian times. So having to be perfect. So that's why we have the costuming.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
was very intentional. I know it, and it was very extreme for a very important reason, because as much as it's uncomfortable, these are societal themes that are very real and that are present and should be addressed. And what better icebreaker than magical realism of this, futuristic setting?
Yeah, we are playing with AI, right? It's happening
all around us. And I think too, it made me also think of, I had done Dangerous Liaisons, Les Liaisons Dangereuses on Broadway, but in that play, we wore corsets all the time. And I always remember how suffocating it was to wear a corset. And here we were wearing, tight clothing and these 50s housewives styled outfits by Val Halverson, our lovely head of wardrobe. And it was on it for a reason, because, when you wear tight clothing, when you wear the corsets back in the, during before the French Revolution, it's suffocating, and it's for men's pleasure, for their pleasure. But what does it do when you wear something really tight, or when you wear a corset? Your voice can't come out when you don't have enough breath. So it's like a cage. It's like birds in a cage. So
and you kind of emulated that in those outfits, right?
Yeah, and that's why we also wanted the physicality of bird-like aspects in there, because the whole thing is like, here's this bird trying to break out of the cage, and ultimately towards the end there's empowerment, and there is a resistance, there is a revolution that takes place. But essentially we're making a commentary on women's voices and the suffocation of women, and how they've been put down, and once we start to have the curiosity gets the better of us, or when we start to get smarter, gotta reset, gotta deprogram, gotta put back to level 1, gotta dumb her down. So this was the overall moral imperative that was really driving all of us in telling the story.
And I think it works too, because, when I saw the trailer for it, I was thinking, maybe there'll be male companions, right? Because they're just working on the assumption that every male wants a woman companion, right? And so there's no male companions at all. It's all female companions. And that's not even brought up. And that's an interesting message in itself without mentioning it.
That was something we talked about a lot, because it was very much on purpose, the fact that it's women companions, and how sexual it is, and the intimacy aspect of it, and then how we jump from women to babies. We don't even go, it's the babies first. And that's a disturbing notion.
Yeah,
as I was saying, having baby AI that never change. But in the end, and I don't want to give that's one of the many awesome twists in the story. There's a huge one in reference to what you're talking about. It does get addressed, but look at how the reason behind it. It's not for the same reasons that are motivating the creation of WIFELIKE. What brings on this next thing is for more of a sinister reason. So, but really nice catch.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, people will be able to catch it. WIFELIKE is going to be in select theaters and on digital August 12th. Thank you so much, Elena, for your time. It was amazing meeting and speaking with you.
Helen, thank you so much.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
I hope we'll get to meet again.
Yes, me too.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.